Welcome to my Toyota 200 Series touring build. I think the most anticipated episode yet, and something that people love to talk about. Let's get into the wheels, tyres and suspension on the 200. Welcome to episode number 7. So let's talk about the rims that I've put on the 200. Right now, I'm running the ROH Vapors in a 17-inch by 9-inch wide format with a plus 35 offset. Now, with the Cruiser, I've always run ROH rims, and I originally started out with the ROH Octagons in a 17 by 8-inch wide rim and a 0 offset. Now, I chose the ROH rims because they were the only load-rated rim I could get at the time. The Octagons and the Vapors both have an increased load capacity of 1,500 kilograms, which is quite hard to find in a good four-wheel drive rim. So when I first put the ROH Octagons on the car, not only did they have the increased capacity, but I really didn't see that many 200s getting around running ROH rims. Now that's a different story, but I'm okay with that. I still think that the ROHs are a great choice. So I've said on previous episodes that I don't really do things to the car for looks, but rims are really the only exception. And that is the main reason I went from the Octagons to the Vapors. So talking about tyres, let's talk about the tyre that I'm currently running on the Cruiser, and that is a Mickey Thompson ATZ P3 in a 295/70 R17 size. I find tyres a really tricky subject to talk about. You see, most people are extremely loyal to their brand of tyre, and if you speak ill about an experience you've had with their beloved tyre, they'll act as if you've just dropped their firstborn child on the ground or something. That's not how I am. You see, I'm a very curious person by nature. So that means over the years, I've had a ton of different brand tyres. I've had BFGs, I've had Coopers, I've had Goodyears, I've had Mickey Thompsons, I even had a set of Maxxis tyres at one stage. I've had all-terrain tyres, I've had mud-terrain tyres. I've driven on bitumen, I've driven on dirt, I've towed, I've driven on sand with different tyres. And to be honest, out of all of that, not one tyre has actually really let me down. So when it comes to these Mickey Thompsons that I've been running, I'm going to say that they are a very, very tough tyre. With a 3-ply sidewall, a 121Q load rating and speed rating, these things have been bulletproof for me. So before filming this episode, I decided to triple check with the tyre shop who fit the Mickey Thompsons to see exactly how many kilometres were on the car when they were put on. The car had just over 219,000 kilometres on it at that stage, and today the car's got just over 298,000 kilometres on it, meaning these tyres are close enough to have done 80,000 kilometres. As you can see, they're actually in really good nick for that many kilometres. These tyres have done 2 trips to the Cape now, with one of those trips towing our off-road van. We've done countless trips out west on dirt and bitumen roads, towing and not towing. Heaps of trips up the beach, heaps of four-wheel drive tracks, and to date, they haven't let me down. I've never had a puncture or a flat that's been the fault of the tyre. Now, in saying all that, there is a bit of a downside, and that is that these tyres really need to be looked after. If you don't rotate and balance them on the mark 5,000 kilometres all the time, you'll soon enough know about it. So the next question that I get asked a lot is, are they noisy? And they are starting to get noisy towards the end of their life. But in all honesty, when I've got a twin 3-inch exhaust out the back and I love my music and normally have it up pretty loud, it's not like I can hear the tyres or they become annoying in any way. So as I said, I am a curious person and I want to give the Nitto Ridge Grapplers a go. They have very good reviews. Even though they have a less aggressive tread pattern, they still have a 3-ply sidewall and a very high load and speed rating, which will suit the Cruiser perfectly. So it's going to be interesting going from the Mickey Thompsons, that, as I said, have been a really tough tyre, to a whole nother brand completely. But all reports out there so far is that the Ridge Grapplers have been a very, very good tyre. And if I can get away without having to balance and rotate every 5,000 kilometres, I see that as a slight upside over the Mickey Thompsons. I'll be sure to let people know over on my Instagram how the Ridge Grapplers are going once they get fitted up. Now, the main question I get asked quite a lot about the tyres and the rim package on the vehicle is, why do I have 17-inch rims and not 18-inch rims? So the early model 200s came out standard with a 17-inch rim. And when I upgraded originally to the ROH Octagons, I just stuck with that same size. So having a 17-inch rim means that the tyre profile is higher than it would be on an 18-inch rim. This means when I'm off-road and I deflate the tyres to go on the beach or to go in the mud or up a rocky hill climb, I just have more tyre there between me and the ground. I see this as a very positive thing, and so far I haven't been disappointed. All in all, if someone come to me and said, should I get an ROH rim? I'd give them the thumbs up and say bloody oath you should. They're a tough rim, and I've had no issues whatsoever with mine. I think that they sit really, really well on the Cruiser, and they fill the guards out very nicely. With that high load rating, they really do tick all the boxes for me. To be honest, it would be the same if someone came and asked me, should I get Mickey Thompson tyres? They are a very tough tyre. They have been very, very good to me, and I wouldn't bag them at all. To be honest, I probably wouldn't bag any of the previous tyre brands that I had at all. Mickey Thompsons are the ones that have lasted me the longest out of everything, but as I said, they have demanded more care than previous tyres have. The Mickey Thompsons are going to give you a slightly harsher ride because they have that thicker sidewall. So if you're like me and you value reliability over comfortability, then Mickey Thompson is a top choice. So let's move on now to the suspension under the car. I'm running the ARB BP51 remote reservoir suspension system. I had these installed within a couple of months of ARB actually announcing and releasing the BP51s some years ago. When I was thinking about filming this episode, I had to try and work out how to describe the BP51 suspension system to people, and to be honest, I just couldn't work out how to do that well. So I'm going to put this into some dot points for you. Point number one, the ride is somewhat harsh. Now, yes, these are adjustable shock absorbers, and I have been under the car a heap of times adjusting them. I've even had the car back at ARB once or twice to have them have a go at adjusting them. It just feels like you can feel every bump in the road as you're driving along. And no matter what setting I seem to put the suspension into, it just doesn't get any better. On the flip side of the coin, when I go off-road, driving on the beach or on dirt roads, the car feels like it's floating. It feels like the suspension is too soft. No matter what setting I put the suspension on, I just can't seem to find the perfect balance between on-road drivability and off-road comfort. Now I am running 200 kilogram constant load springs in the rear of the 200, and they are there because I have the long range fuel tank, I've got drawers, I've got a fridge. When I calculated the weight of all of these accessories in the back of the car, it came up to around 250 kilograms. So I'm confident that I am running the right springs in the rear of the car. To be honest, most of the harshness on road and the floatiness off-road comes from the front of the vehicle. It's just something that I've found very, very difficult to get correct. Now, point number two is that I have had some failures with the BP51s. I had the front driver's side shock fail, which was replaced by ARB under warranty. I've also had the bushes on the front shocks fail, and they have also had to be replaced. Now, please bear in mind that suspension has been in the car now for just under 100,000 kilometers. So I wouldn't say that it's that old, but I would say that I've given it a pretty harsh life. This car is really made and used only for touring and for off-roading. My advice to anyone that's looking at getting suspension is to wait. Wait until you have your bull bar, your drawers, your fridge, your long range tank. Wait until you have all the accessories on your car and that it's at the maximum load that it's going to be driving around. Then take your car to a suspension specialist and make sure that they weigh the vehicle front and rear and set the suspension and shocks up to suit your car's weight. This is vitally important. To be honest, I am never going to go adjustable suspension again because I feel like you spend too much time fiddling around with it to get it right, and it just never does feel right. So I have chucked around the idea of throwing out the BP51s and putting a new suspension setup into the Cruiser. But with the age of the car, with the kilometers that are on it, and with the amount of money that I've invested in the BP51s, I just can't justify doing that at this stage. Now, I specifically said earlier that I got one of what would have been the first batches of BP51s built to suit the 200 Series Cruiser. I'm not sure if over time ARB have changed the design of the BP51s, but it's still worth going and chatting to your local ARB store about it. Really, these shocks have been good off-road. They've done the Cape twice, they've done a lot of trips out west on dirt, corrugated roads, and a shock has never really failed me right then and there on the track. Yes, I did have one shock failure, but I noticed that when we were at home on bitumen roads, so it wasn't a massive issue. Now, there's every chance that ARB have improved the design over the last couple of years of the BP51s, so I wouldn't write them off if they are a choice for you. Really, we've done a lot of good trips with this suspension, and they handle the corrugations bloody well. They really do perform great off-road, and there's never been a moment on dirt roads or in corrugations where the car has felt unsteady, even when towing our trailer. So when it comes to towing, we needed to increase the GBM of the 200 series to account for the extra weight of the trailer behind the vehicle. And the BP51s allow you to do this. To help even more with the added ball weight, we decided to go with a set of Airbag Man airbags in the rear springs of the car. So the airbags that we went for come with the Kevlar bags on them, which means that we can run increased pressures to ensure that the car is riding level and safe at all times. When I first had the airbags put in, we set them up as a manual fill with 2 fill points on the back bar of the car. To be honest with you, this completely sucked. There was a couple of trips that I went on where halfway through the trip, you'd be driving along and feel the car starting to act a little bit differently. We'd pull over to find that there'd been a slight leak in one of the bags and the airbag had dropped to 0 pounds on one side while the other side was still sitting at 35 or 40 PSI. That was it for me. After it happened on 2 different trips, I had to find a solution. And that's when I came across the Arb Lynx System. Now, the Arb Lynx System is great for controlling the airbags in the rear of your car. And to be honest, I wouldn't even look at anything else the competition has to sell. The Lynx System constantly monitors the airbags as you're driving along. So even if you do have a small leak, the Arb system will continually put air into the bags just to get you through your trip until you pull up and you can inspect where that leak is coming from. The Lynx system also allows you to set 4 different presets. So for whatever reason, you have to send the missus to go and pick up the van, she doesn't have to remember what PSI to pump the rear airbags up to. All she has to do is click the drop-down menu on the Lynx system, select Caravan, and the bags will pump to your preset value. So it really makes this a very, very simple process. The next benefit of having the Lynx system is pumping up your tyres. Because I have an onboard air compressor that is also controlled by the Lynx system for the airbags, it means that you can preset the pressure that you want your tyres to pump up, just like you're going to a service station. So I think I've mentioned this in previous videos, but if you're a person that does a lot of off-roading and is constantly deflating and re-inflating your tyres, the Arb Lynx system is gold. It's a must-have in my opinion. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will have a lot of questions or comments to make, so please bang them down into the comments section below. If anyone has any tips or tricks specifically on the BP51 suspension or on the Mickey Thompson's versus the Nitto Ridge Grapplers, please also leave a comment below so that I can review and have a look at these. I'd be really keen to know what your experience has been. So, we're at the end of episode 7, but please remember there are still 2 more episodes to come out. So, if you haven't already, click on the red subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, give a thumbs up for me because that really helps me out. Because this is on the episode 7, that means there's been 6 other episodes before this. If you haven't seen any of these, the links are in the description below, so make sure you go and check them out as well. I hope this video has been enjoyable and maybe you've learnt a thing or two, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.